back to Tom and Jack having the crack. Every week we sit down with some comics, have some crack. This week we've got the wonderful Steve Mclean and we've got Luke Chilton on the ones and twos.
Hello, Lukey.
Hi.
How you doing, Steve?
I'm all right, yeah, thank you. It's a very early time. I think you feel you should explain to your listeners that it's 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We basically
on a weekday, Steve. On a weekday, which is
Absolutely. Hell is this?
You know what I mean?
That's the number one way to get sympathy off listeners. Like, I have to start my day at 10 a.m.
You do realise like 90% of the population get up at like 7 o'clock or something.
This is the earliest I've been up since since school. Since I used to have to get up for school at this time. This is ridiculous.
So you're a proper night owl?
I mean 11 o'clock's early for me, and that's getting up. I don't do anything till about 1. So
Yeah, and what time do you go to bed at?
usually about 3 or 4.
Every night?
Most nights, but I work at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
my best work. I say I do my least shit work at night. You know what I mean?
Sounds like a terrible Tinder pickup line.
Yeah, I do my least shit work at night. Yeah, no, this is a ridiculous time. Have a word with yourselves, chaps. It's,
our enthusiasm, our boyish enthusiasm.
I've had to stay up all night
To stay up for it. I think it was just booked out for the rest of the day. I think that was the issue.
I've had to pull all sorts of favours. I had to bribe Luke to get in here with a Starbucks sandwich and a coffee.
Man, I didn't even get that. This is outrageous. I'm calling my union rep.
We'll get you breakfast afterwards.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's a very limited selection there, Steve. So, yeah.
So, Steve, you're back from Edinburgh. How many Edinburghs have you done now?
Wow. So I did my first Edinburgh as taking a show in 2014, but before that I went up in 2013 and did spots, as a lot of us do. And then before that, in 2011, I went up as a reviewer for a small radio station called Real Rebels Radio, who operate out of Stoke Newington. They're lovely guys. And then I went up because I used to live in Scotland, and so I was a punter a couple of times as well when I was a wee boy. But I didn't really know what was going on. You know, I mean, you walk when no one tells you about it. Edinburgh's a strange place. No one tells you how it works. So you walk around the streets and you just see all these people milling around and people handing you bits of paper and then people juggling and fire breathing and trying to, kind of do things in the middle of the street. And you think, is this it? Is this what it is? And you go home. Do you know what I mean?
It's this city, yeah.
No one actually kind of goes, no, there's more going on than just the madness of the streets. So it's a strange thing. So when I was a teenager, I didn't really get it. But I'd always go up could always get spoken about on like STV and BBC Scotland with this real presence and this real kind of awe of Edinburgh Fringe happening. So you go up and you're like, is this it? Is it what, that guy juggling? Is this what I'm here for? So, it's kind of, so to answer your question, since I was a wee boy.
Since you were a wee boy, very good. It is amazing though when you fly at Edinburgh how many people you bump into who don't know about the festival.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
you know? That's astonishing.
I know, and I feel so sorry for them.
Yeah.
It's like some German guy with his family, like, we came here to see the castle. There's jugglers everywhere. I can't get inside Holyrood.
No, you're right. There's a lot of people. Oh yeah, I just came and the festival was on. It's like, is it? Surely it's not. Surely the whole world knows. But this is it. This is the smallness of our world.
It is.
We think is massive.
Yeah.
We assume the whole, because everyone we know talks about Edinburgh. We assume the whole world talks about Edinburgh.
Yeah.
It's a real goldfish.
And have you ever heard this thing in psychology? What you see is all there is. Where you think what you see is the world, and anything you don't see, you don't believe exists.
Wow.
It's amazing, isn't it? When you start fucking going down that rabbit hole.
That actually, God, that really explains a lot of things about the world we live in politics and, kind of the way that people just kind of get on with their lives and ignore the bigger problems, doesn't it? That's a real...
Yeah, and it like
everybody... talk about this?
We can, like, everybody lives in a different world. No two people live in the same world because no two people see the same stuff.
Even down to the fact that, like, your comprehension, even something as simple as, like, this, like, cup, you'll perceive it ever so slightly differently, and then you ramp that all the way up to, like, I remember the first time I showed my brother that we got different Google results. It blew his mind. It's like if you read a lot of, like, left-wing newspapers, for example, and you Googled, I don't know, is Joe Biden a good president? you'd get presented with like a bunch of achievements and accomplishments. If you read a load of like Fox News and that kind of thing, and you Googled, is Joe Biden a good president? You get served
the opposite.
I mean, I feel the results to that would be the Fox News one would be no, and the left wing accepting one would be meh. I mean, no one's out there going, he's our guy. They're all going, it's not the other guy.
They're the most interesting people to meet. So, because I go back and forth to America a little bit, and you do meet some people who are like, no, he's very much like FDR. In the sense that he could also be in a wheelchair, and they're very
now
similar.
I'm going to stand up from here because he's Irish. This
it doesn't matter what his politics is. He is
have
Irish.
you shit on my president.
Oh man! Tell me you cling to things without telling me you cling to things.
Listen. What about this getting rid of tuition fees for all these people?
He hasn't got rid of tuition fees. I mean, hang on. Listen, I should.
He's wiping out debt for
people.
Not
wiping. He's wiping out $10,000 worth of debt if you're at the maximum amount of debt.
Yeah.
It's not wiping out debt. He is decreasing debt marginally. And I agree with it. Don't get me wrong. It's a great policy. He could go a fuckload further. Can we swear on this?
Sure. Yeah.
He can go a fucking cunting load further.
But I think this is always the problem with the more left-sided politics is the person could always go for it. They're always criticised by their own side. Like, do you know what I mean?
But it seems to be one of those kind of deadweight policies. It's like softcore porn, right? In that people who like porn don't like it, and people who don't like porn don't like it.
Yeah,
and that's what Joe Biden's giving in tuition fees is softcore porn.
Now, but I also think in politics, like you got the overture window. Is that what am I saying that right? Overton window, and then you got momentum, and you need to move toward, like, you know, you have to kind of bring people with you a little bit.
Yes, of course.
And then I also always think like politics, it's a bit like football. Like everyone wants to score a goal, but like, there's obstacles in your way. You know what I mean? Like there's a fucking goalie there, do you know what I mean? And defenders. And like passing laws isn't just, you just don't go, oh, yeah, give me the pen.
Just imagine,
do you know what I mean?
Just imagine Mitch McConnell like,
I'm the goalie.
No, I know. And you got to, and Biden understands you got to play to the middle, but a policy like this, it doesn't win the middle, and it just pisses off the other two. If you're going to do something like this, and I can see why he's done it, because he's got the midterms coming up and he's tanking in the polls. But if you do something like this, you have to do it. It's not something like when Richard Nixon formed the EPA. I don't know if you know that. Richard Nixon imagine that, a Republican president in the 1970s forming the Environmental Protection Agency. That fucking is mind-blowing. And how he did that was he got a load of outrage from his own party saying, I can't believe you're doing this environment. And what he did was he says, well, actually what we'll do is we'll make money by tendering the contracts that the EPA have. So it's actually a revenue generator.
Yeah.
And he gave a little bit. And you can do that with some policies. But there are other policies that you can't play the middle on, because you will just lose the middle and both sides. And I feel it's a massive. He either shouldn't have done it or gone a lot further. To secure votes.
I'd never agree with he shouldn't have done it, because all the people who will benefit from it, none of them are going to be like, he shouldn't have done it. And it will make real difference to people's lives.
Yes. It's also like he needs a thing, like with the midterm, he needs a thing to campaign on.
Yes.
And it's a solid sentence.
Yes.
Like we're getting rid of Jewish is a solid sentence to say out loud.
But also the other thing too is, one of the reasons that they don't want to wipe out debt is they think it causes inflation, but the economists say it won't. So if he can then go at a later stage, look at, I wiped that debt out and it didn't cause inflation, let's do it again.
But this is it. I mean, reducing debt and wiping out debt are very different things. And I feel he could have, I would have much rather have seen him be, rather than this one-size-fits-all policy of I would rather it be means tested. And so rather than everyone who's over the certain limit get 10 grand, I would rather some people got 50 grand and people who can afford their tuition fees to have to get not get nothing, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I hear what
he
you're saying,
could have he could have really made real difference to the real bottom earners, and he chose to play that awful thing of no, everyone gets that fake equality. It's not equality. Equity that we think's equality in this country, and he could have done. He could have taken the same amount of money and done so much more. I mean, no one's losing any money. He's just written the debt off. No one's having to pay for it.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that annoys me is that people said, I can't believe I'm paying for that. You're not.
Yeah.
You're absolutely not.
Do you think we need a big debt amnesty, though, don't we? Like, and it happened in the
Yes.
past.
Yes,
like the
agreed.
Greeks did it, the Romans did it. There was always a point in society
FDR
where it's
might
just
have
like,
done
it.
let's just, you know what I mean, let's start again.
It's all fake. I mean, there's a great book. I don't think you guys read it. It's called Why Everyone Knows Everybody and Why Everyone's Broke.
Yeah.
It's basically the concept of like, all we're doing is you just agree to trade debt around
Right.
the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So you can agree not to. You can agree to like write it down. You can agree to offset it. There's loads of things you can do just to say it's fine. We still trust you. We'll still like trade with you and lend to you. Doesn't have to be like the certain number you've got today. It can be a different number.
What I'm loving about this conversation is, in the grand tradition of the Edinburgh Fringe, we had one line at the start about what it was about, and then it's just gone off into our debt-laden club sets.
Yeah, these are the hits. Government debt, economic policy, inflation versus debt reduction. That's our comedy store bit. Our comedy store bits.
A solid weekend material.
Exactly. It's a Friday night in Manchester. Here we are. Here we go. What do you guys think? Monetary policy or growth? What do we reckon?
But yeah, I really derailed it there with that, and we were smoking with the debt.
We were flying,
Well,
lads.
actually, it flows quite in because I mean, debt and the Edinburgh Fringe.
Well,
are
exactly.
hand in
Inexorably
hand. They go
Yeah.
hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's you don't do an Edinburgh Fringe and not come out of it with some kind of debt.
Emotional, financial,
Yeah.
spiritual. Yeah, it's true. It is like a little microcosm of that thing of like, we could all agree to not charge as much for the venues. We could all agree to not have ticket prices where they are, or you continue to perpetuate a system where, because somebody's going to pay it, which is kind of like the macro. That's kind of the macro trend in capitalism in general. Is like somebody will pay for it somewhere.
Well,
somebody
that's
will.
the problem, isn't it? 'Cause you're
Well, that's I suppose that's globalization
Yeah.
has helped that, you know, because it's created a much bigger market. So that's why you can get like, you know, the universities, for example, like they kept up on their prices. There's universities in Ireland where like a huge percentage of their students are coming from China.
Oh, I think every Western country. That's like the unspoken thing. Is that the reason why tuition fees increase is because of that.
Because they're bringing them from China.
Well, from any other country where they put a real premium on going to Oxford or Trinity College or Harvard, and they've got money to spend on it, and so they will.
So now they don't have tuition fees in Ireland, but the universities. It's not the same as here with the debt and everything. But like there are universities where they do a lot of the pitching in China to get people. Do you know what's a really weird thing about globalization, right?
So just so we're clear, we're sticking on this, yeah?
Oh yeah.
I've tried twice to change traits.
no.
And we go back to Edinburgh.
This is a double dynasty.
We go back to Edinburgh now in a minute. But this is the bizarrest thing about globalization, right? I live in Clapham, and in Clapham there's like one of these really old school Chinese restaurants, right?
Okay.
They only take cash, they don't take card. And you know, like these Chinese restaurants that are all around Britain and Ireland, where they all taste exactly the same. Like the food consistency is like better than McDonald's. Like
Right,
every
yeah.
dish is exactly the same. They all taste exactly the same. And every so often, I will go to this place for nostalgia for my childhood.
Right.
Like Chinese food is the nostalgia dish of my Irish upbringing.
I mean, my grandfather was Irish. He used to talk about it all of the time.
Is that because you get like orange chicken, rice?
No,
and broccoli?
it's.
Wow.
I tell you what I get.
Wow.
I tell you what I get. I get chicken fried rice. I get chicken fried rice and curry sauce, and it's just brings back so many memories.
Thanks for sticking with me on that, Steve. I appreciate that.
I mean, I was there all the way.
Chicken. Yeah.
Right,
Edinburgh.
right, okay.
Okay.
I mean,
What's the problem? What's the solution?
the solution, the problem is it's far too expensive for everybody, and now that the middle class has started to feel the pinch, it's suddenly a problem for everyone. Whereas those of us that were struggling to it in Edinburgh for the last 10 years have known it's been a problem for a while. But as always with things, when it starts hitting the middle class, suddenly it hits the newspapers. You know,
Right.
And we have suddenly hit the newspapers because the people the people who run it, essentially the social demographic of the people who run it,
Yeah.
are saying, we've not done a very good job at running this. It's outrageous. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, don't let your mates fucking rip off your other mates. It's that simple. But yeah, I think Edinburgh needs to collapse. I think the whole system needs to fall in on itself. It's shown signs that it might creak. I don't want it to. If I'm honest with you, I would like Edinburgh to continue on the model it was a few years ago of just about affordable. Because not for any reason of me defending the status quo, but for fear of what it might become. What I don't want to do is have someone like myself have it all collapse and be restructured. Because usually when things are restructured, they become even more expensive. They become even more unavailable to people like me, working class scumbags who are entirely priced out of the Edinburgh Fringe by the Edinburgh Fringe. And I'm loath to say this recorded, but entirely priced out intentionally. It's a middle-class playground, an upper-middle-class playground, and they want to keep it as such and be under no illusions. That's what the app... Get
rid of the app, yeah.
Get rid of the app was an attack on free shows. It wasn't They had the money. Yeah. They had money to put journalists up. They're currently putting money into taking Edinburgh Fringe shows currently. My money... They're taking Edinburgh Fringe workshops all around Scotland. Great. That's brilliant. That's great. But they certainly had money to help out and chose not to. I don't know if your listeners or your viewers know, but they usually provide an app, which is a great thing for free shows. Around half my business comes from this app. And despite saying the app would be available in the terms and conditions, they removed the app this year and didn't tell us till we found out about it.
Which means people can't discover you.
So,
because the idea is like, oh, it's 8 p.m. What's on?
It's the now and nearby function that free shows absolutely exist on. The reason why they removed the app is because they knew it was going to be low number. And I realize I'm creating all sorts of kind of legal I'm saying this as definite. You know what? Fucking sue me. I would love for them to take me to court over this and get this whole thing out. I believe the reason why the app was removed is because the Edinburgh Fringe do not get a percentage of things that go through the app, which are free shows.
I know exactly what you mean, because in these situations, I don't know what you think, but in these situations, it's not necessarily like somebody's like Mr. Burns twiddling their thumbs, but what they are doing is looking at a spreadsheet.
Yes, of course, yeah.
I mean, like, is there a monetary benefit to putting resources here?
Yes.
No, there isn't. There's a cultural or there's a spirit of the festival benefit, but there isn't a monetary benefit, so we don't put resources.
Exactly.
There.
Yeah.
It's quite cold in a way. It's not like
you know what? At least it would be entertaining if it was evil. Yeah. But it's just administration.
Yeah.
It's administration boxed out. And the people you don't want involved in art are people who fucking love spreadsheets. They're the people you want far away from art as possible because they kill art. They make, well, that's not a very profitable form. And then art becomes, and don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here claiming to be any form of an artist. I'm a guy that shouts at people on stage and shows you them as shopping. You know what I mean? It's kind of, but there's certainly a hell lot of art at the Edinburgh Fringe that is cut out of the Edinburgh Fringe. Imagine being the world's biggest arts festival, but only for those that can afford it.
I think for all the exploitation of I shouldn't have said that, but anyway, for all the
I think that's the right word. That's the right word. Say it. Say the pleasants exploit people. Say it. Say they're exploitative pricks who take your money. And Gilded Balloon and Underbelly and Shona what's her name. Say them.
Hey, but great exposure though, right?
But for that, I have to say, I think the free fringe. I do think the free fringe is amazing, and I do think that Edinburgh does make you a good performer.
Yeah, makes you bulletproof.
I do think it really.
Bulletproof is wrong. It makes you. You feel like you're able to tackle any route.
Yes,
it develops you.
Yeah.
It definitely develops you.
Build your armor.
Yeah.
I think, and that's great as well. For like whatever stage you go up at, 10 years in, 2 years in, 5 years in, you come back with a version of that.
Yeah.
Do you know what's mad too? I was reading like it was the 75th anniversary of it, and it was set up after the war as a balm for the public to help them get over the war.
Really?
Yeah, that was the original. And now it's like, Jerry Sadowitz stuck his cock out. The Nazis are gone. I feel it's lost the spirit of what it was.
Are you saying that more people would have enjoyed Jerry Sadowitz getting his cock out after the war?
I think he'd have been shot after the war. I think he'd have been fucking cancelled then. Do you know what I mean?
Properly cancelled.
Yeah.
Properly cancelled. Throw that man in jail. Who the fuck is he?
Yeah, saying the word cock would have probably.
Yeah. But I don't think comedy was always meant to be the biggest part of it. I think that just happened in the 80s and the 90s. Like, the comedy then outgrew.
It's certainly in the 90s. There was a massive comedy boom in the 90s. And Richard Herring and Stuart Lee talk about it. And they talk about how it was just a case of you felt like you were just waiting for your turn to be the next big thing.
Right.
And that doesn't exist anymore because obviously once everyone got wind of that, all of the people that wanted to be comedians were shown they could do it, you know, by fortunately people like Peter Buckley Hill came along and said, you can do it, here's a room, I'm not going to charge you, you know what I mean? It's kind of, so there was that comedy boom that unfortunately has gone too far the other way now and it's created a bottleneck for performers now, that unless you've got something like, and when I say something, and unless you're very lucky, unless you have a big fat bit of wedge in your pocket to make yourself stand out, you're not going to stand out. So you should just use the Fringe as what you were saying, the armor building, material developing area that it is now.
Now, one of these things about, I always think when people talk about comedy and making it and everything like that, I'm a big believer in the Andy Warhol thing that everybody should do something creative just because it's good for you and it's good for society, and it's good. Like, if everyone had a creative hobby, it's just better. It's there's something, you get something out of it. Like, it's a good thing to be pursuing, you know?
At the same time, I mean, there's round pegs and square holes and square pegs and round holes, and not everyone wants to be. There's two kinds of people in the world. There's consumers and producers.
Right.
And for the want of a better phrase, three of us at this table are producers, and we enjoy being producers of content, of art, of comedy, of whatever it is you feel you want to produce. You might want to write short stories or performance poetry or whatever. And there are people in the world who want to be consumers. They want to sit and listen to hear what you've got to say. They want to see how well you do it. They want to see how badly that you do it. But crossing the line isn't always for them. So I think Andy Warhol, and I realize I'm about to call one of the art geniuses of the world wrong here, but I think Andy Warhol is very, very guilty of living in the bubble we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And that he can't see a world outside of his world, and he gets a great gratification from art and all these great artists and musicians, friends with Lou Reed and Nico.
Basquiat,
and do you know what I mean? So it's like, so his whole world is, yes, everyone can do this. We can all do this. And I think he misses you've got to
He also misses the fundamental point of what you just. I think it's a great. Take
I just had a visual image there of like Andy Warhol walking into the party, like paparazzi, and Steve shouting, "You're living in a bubble, Andy! You're living in a bubble!"
I'd be putting my arm around and going,
Andy, you're living in a bubble!
I'd be more, are you sure about this, Andrew? Are you sure about this?
I love that as well. You went straight to his big boy name, Andrew. Andrew. Is this bubble really for you? Are we sure?
I just feel we can lose sight that some people enjoy their hobby is consuming.
Yeah.
And to say that everyone should be forced into that, it's like,
But like
well,
everyone.
not forced, but, but I think when you say everyone should do something
fucking
creative,
draw, will you?
yeah, exactly. Didn't you hate it?
The most gentle version of Mao.
Didn't you hate
Crochet. Get out there and crochet. The People's Republic of Crochet.
Oh wow, I'd live there. I'd fucking live there.
People's Republic of Crochet. Sounds
But
great.
didn't you hate it when you were made to play cricket at school?
Well, I'm from Ireland. We don't play
Well,
cricket.
this is it. I was forced to play. I was a Scotsman forced to play cricket in an English school, and it was awful for me. You know what I mean? It was like I was not brought up in this world, and so I kind of liken it like that. It's like when you're made to do something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think Andy Warhol's heart's in the right place there, but he's very definitely wrong. Okay.
But I mean, at scale, because I know what you mean. It's like it doesn't have to be anything. It could be like just knitting or just doing a bit of like anything you find.
Yeah.
Right.
Cooking.
Okay.
Like anything you find creative, but the only way art becomes scalable or successful is if you have a relatively small number of producers and a lot of
Yes. Yeah.
Consumers.
I mean, so my shows are all about science fiction and toy collecting and retro stuff. And my whole audience love consuming. They spend their money and they keep their things. And that means the world to them.
Do you ever think of doing like a Forbidden Planet tour?
Oh yeah, it's great.
I don't want to talk about something like that right now.
He's teaming up with Jerry. They're going on the road. You get your action figure out, I'll get my action figure out.
Before the pandemic, I was speaking to them about something like that.
That'd make a lot of sense for both parties.
Yeah,
really.
I was speaking to them about something like that, but kind of the pandemic put the.
And there must be a market for you in China as well.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm probably a little bit too much of a gobshite to be allowed into China. Certainly to be allowed out again. You know, they'd probably let me in, but that would be the last you saw of me.
Have you ever been?
Yeah, all right.
No, I've never been. No.
I haven't
Have you
been.
been?
No.
It's an interesting place. It's quite arresting. The scale of everything's interesting. Like, we think London's a big city, or like New York's a big city. You go to like Beijing or Shanghai, like we don't know scale. Like we don't. That's the first thing that hits you in the face. And then the second thing is like you can't just not being able to like Google Maps anything, not being able to get on your email, not being able to look up anything on the internet, and being very reliant on people giving you information. It's quite an arresting.
That sounds quite nice, actually.
Well,
Being out of touch from the world.
Yeah.
But also being in touch with the world.
Out of your bubble.
Out of your
To
bubble.
another
There you
bubble.
go. Andy Warhol would hate it.
Yeah, that was his big thing. He hated.
Yeah.
that
But there
was
must have
famous
some,
for it.
like, did it not have the internet? It's just censored, like.
So it takes. So you remember, like, we used to have dial-up. It would take 25 minutes to load Gillian Anderson pictures, one minute at a time.
I feel this is very personal to you. Description of dial-up.
Yes, it is. So it's like that, and then it will get to a site and it's like no. So it'll take ages.
Yeah.
To try.
All right, then.
Because they're checking it live. It's like
People there. So I mean, there's employment. There's a job there, guys.
I have read one of the things they do for like political stuff in China, that in the chat rooms they have like an army of people who go into the chat rooms, and basically if a topic starts trending or being talked about that they don't want to talk, they drown it out with another topic. They go, right, everybody get into this chat room. Talk about Steve Mclean's new show. So they stop talking about.
I mean, I could do with that. I could do with some of that China action going on in all of the. I mean, do people still use chat rooms in outside of China? Do they still?
like Reddit, I guess, is one.
Yeah, I think they
Right.
still exist. I'm reading a book about the misogynistic groups online, and they're all chat room fellas.
Oh, is that
Is
because?
this like manosphere stuff?
Manosphere, yeah, it's
Fucking hell, that
fucking the
sounds awful.
bizarrest.
Black pill, red pill.
It's way fucking weirder than I thought it was. There's a group like online who are called Men Going Their Own Way.
Yes.
Have you heard
Yes,
about
I've
these
heard about
fellas?
these. Yeah.
And their philosophy is women are out of control and have been for a long time. That's the first line in their philosophy, which you're like, fucking hell.
Strong opener.
A strong opener. And it says, we need a big event to get women to behave again. Men can't be men. So until something like that happens, we're staying away from it.
Just get a T-shirt made up saying "I've never made anyone come." It's a lot cheaper and less of your time.
Do you know what the bit that's bad is? Like, they get like, they have videos online that have like 25 million views, 37 million.
See, that's the
2,000.
worrying thing.
Yeah.
200,000 is the most views I've got online. And these fuckers
Yeah.
talking this shite.
That's, I mean,
Sad.
but that's the grift, isn't it?
Oh, that's the grift. Because
That is, I mean, it encompasses your man Joe Rogan and Peterson and all these guys. They all touch on it.
Oh, they all Trump as well. Like they all purposely tip the hat to them.
Yeah.
Like,
they might not come out, and I mean, I think they have done now. I think they've kind of gone full.
But they're all they're wolf whistling to them all the time.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Saying your opinion's relevant. I'm not talking about it, but you know and I know that you're relevant. It's that kind of.
Something like Jordan Peterson's really interesting because he was like a professor for a long time, and then had a book that was it's basically like cribbing the best of Western philosophy. That 12 Rules for Life book. It's basically just taking like Schopenhauer and it's stuff that people know, but he's cribbing it into a usable format. And then he got really sick, and then he went off the deep end. massively. And this is the real danger of building an audience online. I think a lot of the manosphere stuff, you lean into where the clicks are.
Yeah.
You lean into where the love is and the clicks are, and you go away. You actually look like 3-4 years down the line. You're like, how have you gone from, okay, maybe you were conservative.
I mean, the starting point was already pretty right, wasn't it?
But yeah, I mean, there's one thing being conservative, and that's like, I don't know if you agree.
No, it's all right.
It's probably a legitimate political
I mean,
view.
one of the big mistakes in the world that we do at the moment is confusing the right with the far right, and it really infuriates me because, I mean, usually conservatives, certainly in this country, are just people who want less government intervention, less taxes. You know what I mean? They spend their time raising money to get the school roof fixed.
It's certainly some of the Tory hardline. They're quite communal. When you go there, they are quite communal places.
What the far right have done, and this is a fucking genius move by the far right, is that they have managed to conflate the right and the far right. So now when we talk about the right, and we're meaning the far right, the people on the right get their heckles up and they move that little bit closer to. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, you should try and understand everyone. You should try and understand everyone, but you don't accept outrageous points of view. You know what I mean? You kick back against them. But the problem with someone like Pearson is he has put that pin in the board of the right wing, and then he's dragged the board, not the pin. He's dragged the whole board further to the right.
Yeah, but do you not think it's like a more, I think all economies run in cycles, and throughout history there's always a point where the economy gets to a stage where suddenly it stops working for the majority of people, and then the politics start to move further right and further left. And it's not just, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Like Sweden now have far right people in government. Italy, there's a woman in Italy who basically said Mussolini the best politician in the last 50 years. And like 1916, 1920, like the Irish Rebellion, that was the same thing that happened. That was a workers' socialist rebellion, and that was happening all over Europe.
I think we go out of our way to offer olive branches to the far right and hiding the understanding behind the economies when we've traditionally done, and there's no amount of lack of money justifies dehumanizing people.
No. I agree with you there. But I think what happens is there's periods of time where their power increases. I'm reading the book about Mussolini at the minute, and
but that's because they're grifters. That's because they're saying your skin.
They don't believe what
your
they're saying.
skin because your skin because of the economy's bad because of people.
But they're always trying to promote their wares. But there's times where suddenly because of the shift in people are more, the stress and everything makes people more susceptible to being lured in.
No, totally. Yes, maybe you're right. But once they've been lured in, I don't think it's. It's a tricky one because everyone's capable of rehabilitation, or at least you should believe everyone should be worthy of rehabilitation. But at the same time, the right wing, the very people that they've lured in, are very, very definite about personal responsibility. They are very sure about it. It's part of their manifesto. Not the far right, but the right wing in this country are. Well, it's a personal responsibility. So I don't think. I think to say, well, they've been lured in because of grifting and blah, they've still made the choice to go.
They're still.
I agree with that, and I actually really dislike the argument of it's an interesting semantic difference between being like lured in versus like just susceptibility, because lured in I think implies they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
and they're too silly or too stupid to know the difference. Whereas I think susceptibility just means like my life is tanking. Like things aren't going great.
That's the answer.
And just Jack was saying, like, there's that bifurcation of the left and the right.
Yeah.
So some people go like way left and like this is an answer, this is a solution to something. Some people go way right and be like this is a solution to something, because the common institutional way in which like maybe their parents were making money or living their life doesn't seem to exist anymore, doesn't make sense anymore. So they just search for something, anything to try and glom onto.
Yeah, no, I think that's true as well. I think, and also as well, blame is like my life's tanking. I've done nothing. Okay, it's easier to blame
To someone else, yeah.
know what I mean?
People
It's
always
kinda-
want to blame someone else.
Yeah, rather than looking.
Rather than just, do you know what we need to bring back? We need to bring back that song, Que Sera, Sera, whatever it would be.
I mean, I don't think it went away.
When I was a kid, that
yeah.
song was sung all the time, and everyone was like,
When
you
the
know what, fuck it.
When the
Whatever.
fuck were you a kid? 1949.
Well, in Ireland in 1980, it was
In the
1940.
I remember in the 1980s and in the early 90s in Ireland, you ever went to a football match or that was the song that was sang with the most fucking passion, and it was all basically, look at whatever will be the future. That like,
jeez.
you fucking, do you know what? Here we go. Fuck it. Who gives a fuck? Like, it's not your fault. It's that, we're on this ride. Shit.
I think there's a lot in that.
I'm bringing it back. Fucking bringing it back.
Rename the podcast.
Que sera, sera.
Tom and Jack, Que Sera, Sera.
Someone told me that was like the purpose. You know, in like ancient Greek sort of theatre, and they have the tragedy trope or whatever, like a tragedy play, and it just everyone just loses, and there's no sort of
Winners.
vindication at the end. Yeah. Apparently that was like a function of what you were saying. So it reminded everyone that the world was chaotic and unfair, and it made
And
people
accept it.
much more accepting of it, because they're just like, oh, you can be a good person and everything goes bad for you, and that sucks, but that's the way the world is.
You have to learn to accept that.
Yeah. And like they were
yeah.
supposed to be like group cathartic exercises, and that was the purpose of tragedy. Whereas nowadays it's all obsessed with nostalgia. At least
Right.
in the like mainstream sort of cinema, it's all like
Yeah.
action heroes, superheroes, like sort of morally perfect people.
And that
it's
morality has
just
some sort of has a utility. That
Yeah.
it has like a benefit. If you're a moral person, you
And how you do it, it's not a reflection on you. Do you know what I mean? There's like, you were the smallest factor in all the variable factors of success. You're one of the smallest ones. Time and place, and
yes, yes.
the outside context is here.
Yes.
I always think, do you ever see this guy in Vegas? Fucking amazing stuff. There's this crooner guy in Vegas. You definitely recognize him if you saw him. Like, and he was like a very religious guy when he was first brought to Vegas to sing in the casinos, and he found the place repulsive, but he was a singer. So he bought himself a farm on the edge of Vegas.
Yep.
So he could have this retreat to go to. He's now sitting on one of the most expensive bits of private real estate in the world, because Vegas built around his farm, and he believes like it's like God, made him rich. Do you know what I mean? But you see, like, there was no shrewdness or intelligence there. Like, that's just fortunate.
Yes.
That's just roll the dice. That's,
Yes.
it's amazing. Like, the logic behind him buying the farm was because he was
get away from the
to get away from Vegas.
Yeah.
Because he was religious.
But it's also an absolution for himself, because he knows deep down in his religious faith he shouldn't really be in Vegas. Really.
That's-
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
so that's why he's saying, well, God made this for me. Yes, he's
and he won't sell it because he believes in this whole story.
But it's
that
so funny,
goes
like
with it.
where you draw your own moral lines. Because back to like the audience thing again, like the line will just shift and move constantly, and you had a great line earlier where you said like it's just if you can get someone to agree. Like if you can just if he has friends in his life who are like, I agree, buddy, that's right.
Yeah,
God did
yeah.
it right, and he can get a consensus around like this is a sensible way of looking at my ranch. He feels good about it.
Yeah.
And he can tell himself that story, and that's.
You're good with accents.
That is true. That is true. I don't know why you picked up on it there.
You've done about 4 accents, and they've all been really good. You opened with a German. I think you've done a Northerner, and then did you do a French person?
Yeah.
And then wow.
This is just a show reel. The only reason this podcast exists is to create one long show reel.
You're bringing
Yeah,
back
there's actually only one guy on this. It's Tom Henry. And that's-
That's going to be your promo video. You're good with accents, and then accent.
So says Steve.
I feel we've gone so way off the original conversation now. Go on.
Do you ever think of doing a bit more reviews at Edinburgh? Should review my show the next time.
I used to, before I was in stand-up, I reviewed
Jerry Sadowitz, best
Jerry
show I've ever seen.
Out and about.
Yeah. Brave.
So I did brave.
Inspiring.
Oh my God!
Circumcised.
There's code words. There's code words. You know when you've tanked. When the audience come up to you after a show and go, "You're very brave."
Oh.
It's like I've tanked. we both know I've tanked.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that. You don't need to say something. But brave is a fucking knife in the spine when people say it to you.
Totally.
Yeah. No, but I used to do music reviews. I did for a few music magazines, and then as I was kind of giving it up, as it were, I reviewed 3 times for Broadway Baby during the Camden Fringe, and I gave my now friend Richard Wright a 2-star review.
Just brave.
Didn't even say brave. I tried. I know, but I mean, it was like, so. This is what I mean about them not telling you what it is. I didn't know at the time the Camden Fringe was essentially a workshop for new comedians or people trying stuff out. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. It's like the Camden Fringe, you put Fringe on the end of the title. Everyone goes, oh, the Fringe.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a very clever marketing thing. But then they go there and there's a comedian who's been going 18 months with 10 minutes stretching it out to say, and this wasn't Richard's show, this is another show that I've refused to review.
Yeah.
There's a comedian with 10 minutes stretching out for an hour. And it's a real, I mean, it's a bit of a con, you know, to do that, especially not to make the public aware. And so I went in, Broadway Baby said, off you go, review these things. I went in as a man who'd been reviewing headline bands in large venues like the Brixton Academy. So I treated it the way I treated every review. And I'm thinking, oh my God, there's 8 people here. This isn't very good. And he's looking at his notes and you know what I mean? I not understanding the process.
Totally.
And this is part of the problem with what I'm saying about the Fringe earlier. They never tell us what the Fringe is. They don't tell us they don't tell us how it operates or works.
Oh yeah.
You kind of have to spend 2 or 3 years. And the
figuring it
smaller
out.
fringes are even worse because they're like, oh well, yeah, we've got headline acts from the London open mic scene.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's,
Like as a performer, you don't. Well, I didn't know anyway what presumptions the reviewer's going to make. So when they're like, oh, they're in a paid venue, they're doing X and Y, it must be at a certain thing. I mean, like, because we had someone who's like confused about, because me and Jack are in a split bill, and like, they were just confused about this whole setup.
Yeah.
They were like,
you guys had the funniest review I read. The whole thing was when their first sentence was like, oh, the bar wasn't serving very well. And then they marked you down later because they were like, also, Jack and Tom never explained how they became friends.
Yeah.
who the fuck opens
And
the
and
bar?
then he went to the toilet and he had to push the handle twice to flush it. You know?
and then it's like,
So
Jack's,
stupid. It was
yeah, it's like
insane.
Jack's got some good jokes, Tom's got some good jokes. Anyway, the bar wasn't running. Cheers. Bye.
Wait, I mean, I got 2016. I got a very similar review about. I was doing stuff that I'd bought from the pound shop. There's a whole show about what the fuck from the pound shop, and the review went. The premises for this is that things from the pound shop are a lower quality, but that just isn't true.
This is someone who works at Poundland.
In a previous life, I used to be a bulk buyer for Poundland, and the quality's the same. It's just the packaging is different, and the other places choose to overcharge you. And it's like, okay, where the fuck is the review for my? Thanks for the diary of your life, but where's the review of my show?
Totally.
But I suppose everyone got. Well, I don't mind that. I would prefer that. Like if everyone's kind of like a bit AA Gill on the restaurant review,
Right.
Like because you know he'd go in and there was a painting on the wall from France from the 1800s. Do you remember France in the 1800s? And then you just get through 200 words
Thank
about.
Sarah a lot there.
Yeah. You know, that would be. I would like that, like sort of comedy reviews that just go completely off tangent.
Yeah, no
know.
comedy, just building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just very bar based. Luke, do you have anything burning in your chest that you want to get off your chest?
Oh, I thought you meant like you could smell burning. I was like, oh, I'm on fire. What about Edinburgh?
Yeah.
That was long, wasn't it? It sort of felt.
Because we would see Luke was in the venue like down the street.
Yeah.
What was your venue, Luke?
Just the Tonic.
Okay.
The Mash House. Yeah, it just felt like doing the world's most expensive open mic, to be honest. And like not enough acts turned up, so they were just like, "Can you just do every spot?" Like that's how I felt.
Just the Tonic are quite established, certainly in their club. But did they struggle this year?
Yeah.
I've heard
Massively.
a lot of kind of tumbleweed style stories of people.
Yeah, I think they all. struggled to a degree.
We had such bad numbers that on the final day on Sunday, we assumed no one would turn up. So we were like, we're just going to cancel the show. And then when we were at someone else's show, we got a message from the venue being like, "You've sold all your tickets.
Really?
Can you get here?" And we were like, "No, we're in a show across town." So we just cancelled our busiest show for no reason.
Wow.
Heartbreaking.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, by that point, we didn't give a fuck. We were just like, whatever.
What kind of? I mean, I'm a die-in-the-wool PBH Free Fringer. I'm entirely committed to it, and I feel the Fringe is going to go that way, or collapse. It can't sustain the model it's got. What kind of deal does Just the Tonic offer?
Well, that's expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not as expensive as some of the other brands, but
I've always taken it to be a bit of a halfway house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brand.
It's a halfway house.
Yeah.
If I'm completely honest, I like what we paid for the venue. Like we were never going to get back, and I was very aware of that going there, and I don't really begrudge that money. I think some of the marketing money we spent hurts more because it was pointless. Do you know what I mean? We spent some marketing money that was absolutely a waste of money.
I mean, those Just the
And
Tonic
that's just
venues, they
I think
rely on
that's
app
the
as
harsh
well.
lesson. Well,
Those Just the Tonic venues, they rely on the app as well. I mean, my
Yeah.
advice to anyone who's thinking about doing the Edinburgh Fringe next year, don't pay a penny to register until you know there's an app. And if there isn't an app, don't go in the book. No one reads that giant book. No one sits there with a highlighter anymore. If you're a free show and you haven't got, or the halfway house kind of half ticketed pay what you want shows, and you haven't got money to spend on press, and obviously you haven't, otherwise you wouldn't be doing the Free Fringe maybe, or you wouldn't be doing the cheaper options if you've got 10 grand in the bank, you know what I mean? So, and certainly it's one of the things on the Free Fringe we discourage you from doing as well, you know, is kind of blowing all the money on advertising.
Yeah.
So if you are on if you are in one of the Free Fringe providers, don't move until you know there's going to be an app. Don't put a single penny the Fringe Society's way. And what they'll do is they'll say, oh, well, the late deadline's coming up. And if they still haven't answered the question as to whether or not there's been an app, don't pay it. You can always go in the app later if they launch the app. Pay the money to make sure you're on the app. Don't pay a penny until you know there's going to be one, because they'll take your money and run again like they did this year. I am going to get sued. I
don't know.
I could do the press.
I think the way to do Edinburgh is, in hindsight, is you do the Free Fringe and you just focus all your energy on flyering.
Yeah,
I think that's, you know.
But flyering I always found funny when it's like stand-up comedians who are often sort of like introverted weirdos versus a troupe of actors flying.
Oh,
yeah.
And they'll literally come in like, "Oh, hello, everybody," and they start doing like backflips and singing like "Tra-la-la-la-la, come to my show," and you're just like filled with rage.
There was that band, you know, that band that would walk around handing out flyers, and it was a great spectacle.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone who knew them, and they were like, they're in a tiny room that holds like 30 people, and it's full every night. They didn't even need to do that.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was like them and clowns just pissed me off so much. There was a fucking clown who used to come past me every day and go, "Kablow!" and put his flyer in my face, and I'm clearly fucking flyering my own show.
That annoys me. That annoys me.
Why are you doing? Like, I felt like I was being tormented, and no one else ever saw him. So I was just like, I was convinced it was just a targeted approach at me.
Or maybe you were having that meltdown and only you could see him.
Yeah. The fucking Edinburgh clown.
But that's another thing to tell new acts. Don't fly at other acts. Leave us the fuck alone.
Yeah.
We're trying to get people in our own show. You know what I mean? It's like if I'm carrying a massive banner, I've got a guitar and a bag, I'm very clearly either going to a show or just done one. You know what I mean? It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
That's my main. That and the fucking silent discos are the two main complaints of the Edinburgh. Acts flyer another flat and that. What's his name? Guru Wankstain or whatever it is. I don't know.
I was offered to do that once.
I hope you kicked him in the fucking balls.
It's £50 an hour you get to do it.
I hope you took the money.
No, I didn't. I didn't do it. I was story of my life. In a pub having a couple of drinks, someone was telling me about how they did it. And I was like, that sounds amazing. I'd love to do something like that. And then they messaged me afterwards, and I was like, I was pissed. I was just being agreeable. I couldn't think of anything worse.
I'm just a very happy drunk. I'm very sorry.
I mean, peer pressure is one thing, but who needs peer pressure to walk around the street on your own enjoying music?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
who's that? Oh, I can't go out with my headphones. People will look at me.
Yeah.
I need a group of people around me. Fuck off.
I know.
Fucking hell.
I know.
You'd be great at it, though, Steve.
I would fucking...
I would do it if you were doing it.
walk across the busiest roads with those pricks. Because you know the only person fucking worse than the person leading that is the people following. And they all
Yes.
deserve to get hit by fucking cars. So the Fringe was great, guys.
You should do a silent disco, but it's just Jordan Peterson monologues the whole way through.
And
Everyone says
Women are out of control and have been for a long time.
Everybody says the Fringe is fun. Everybody says the Fringe is fun. It's not. It's bloody hard. That's a bloody hard event.
You're good with the accents, man.
And these men are trying their best.
These men are the Fringe.
But everything is against them.
Do you know what? Next year, I'm just going to run a show called Men of the Fringe, and it's going to be me trying to every show trying to get Jordan Peterson on the phone.
He was on Backyard the other night.
fuck,
Did you
he
see
did
that?
that.
Oh
He did
man,
that.
But Jordan Peterson was
Hi,
doing
bud.
stand-up at the backyard.
I doubt.
It was it wasn't Backyard as such. It was Comedy Unleashed. Of course, it was Comedy
Comedy
Unleashed.
Unleashed,
They've already had a eugenics supporter on. Why not have?
Wait, but Jordan Peterson's not like funny.
I mean, it depends on his art.
Would have got him to talk.
You know,
No.
I don't think.
But
I don't think if he did a tight five now or anything.
No,
I think he
but
just got up.
he didn't come up and go, "Oh, what's the deal with incels?"
Beat the dog.
I tell you what's interesting about him is like, again, like 4 or 5 years ago, he used to go on loads of comics podcasts.
Yeah.
And he didn't take himself seriously, and he was like quite interesting. I think this new version of him is weird. And
Who's the really? Oh, I can't remember his name. Who's the really big Aussie comedian?
Jim Jeffries.
Jeffries.
There you go. Did you watch the Jim Jeffries clip of him owning Jordan Peterson? Jordan Peterson had been doing this argument for 3 or 4 years. You think he'd be watertight on it, and Jim Jeffries took it apart in 3 seconds.
Which one was it?
It's the one where they're talking about whether or not a bakery should be made to bake
Oh,
a
right.
cake.
Okay, yeah.
And he just folded like Superman on laundry day. He went, "Oh yeah, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I should reevaluate my." It's like, you've been having this argument for 3 years, you prick, telling everyone it's not racist, and here's Jim Jeffries saying this is why it's racist, and you have just gone, "Oh yeah." It's like, who's your fucking god if that's how quickly they get?
Jim Jeffries might have had a gun under the table though.
yeah.
I know, but I do like it when public speakers backtrack on what they say.
Yeah, me
'Cause I
too.
think it's damaging their sense of like infallibility, but it makes them more like human in that.
Oh,
I do like
was that where you got into him then after
Yeah,
that? You're
yeah.
like,
So
you know,
now,
at least he can admit he's wrong from
No,
time to
now I
disagree
time.
on
learn
this
about
one.
the dragon of chaos that's coming to eat
I
us all.
absolutely disagree. When you have built your whole life and your millions of pounds fortune on this argument, I would expect you to have a better go at the argument than just going, "Oh yeah, you're
but
right."
You do know he is a charlatan.
Oh no, totally, yeah.
So, like it doesn't.
But you know, dig your fucking heels in. He's at least pretend you're. We all know you are a grifter. Pretend you're not.
Yeah.
For all the people that have bought you, spent the 20 quid on your fucking book.
What?
For the sake of
Yeah.
them.
Do you think there was some people like? Do you remember when Dylan went electric? Do you think there
No,
was?
how old are you? Remember when K Sarah Sarah was big? Do you remember 1969 when Dylan was a? Are you some kind of weird fucking
Yeah.
I think the Fringe was
portrait of?
better after the war.
I think, yeah.
Do you think there was some people like when Dylan went electric, they freaked out? There's some people, Jordan Peters backfired. They were just like burning their book.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this anymore. I hate him now. I hate him. I'm getting all my Jordan Peterson stuff and I'm burning it.
Yeah. Well, I think he's a massive cautionary tale for like leaning into the wrong, like leaning into the bit of your audience that is feeding you, making yourself feel good. And
Yeah, that's too generous to him. He's a prick.
There you
I
go.
don't- I don't-
Far too
Wow,
generous
wow,
to
this
him.
is a
I didn't-
first.
I-
This is a
I
first.
didn't
You got
think he was a
3
prick.
white guys around a table, and none of us like Jordan Peterson. What are the chances of that happening?
yeah.
But then we have all had sex, so
Yeah.
soz.
Although, yeah, mine never made anyone come. T-shirts are still on order. So that's next
They're
week.
not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Right. Yeah. Well, that's probably a decent place to wrap up.
I mean, we've done nothing about what we said we'd talk
Okay,
about.
yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoyed that.
So the last word on the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. You'll go again, Stephen.
I will go again, and I will treat it as I will treat it. I don't expect to go up there and discovered, and neither should anyone. 10,000 people do the Edinburgh Fringe every year, and one gets discovered every year, and it's just our performer egos that make us think it's going to be us. As I think I'm paraphrasing Peter Buckley Hill when I say that. Go up to any new comedian, go and do it as quick as you can. You'll pick up more stage time in a day than you will in a week of you doing it.
Or even a month.
No, it is the best thing you can do with your time is to develop as an act. Just go there and know what to expect, and that is to expect to get better. Don't expect your Netflix series.
Series, yeah. You got to be realistic with your. There was one or two people. I saw one. What? What?
He just went, I thought I was getting the last word.
Oh, sorry.
It's like, my name's on the fucking podcast.
Hey, Sarah. Okay, all right, sorry. Okay, done. Do you want to say anything, Tom? Will you go again?
So no last word from McLean. Just
my
hammering it
God.
home.
Tell you what, we're going to go around the table and then Steve's going to finish at the end.
Go back.
I would go back. I think that is you have to have that. That's the only mentality to have. And I think either you have a specific thing you want to like try out or get a bit more, a sense of how it's working, or you just like, I just want to get some more reps in this year and I've got a plan for doing it. A month, I think. I'm not sure if I'd go back for a full
month.
Full month. But Luke, how are you? Oh.
What about yourself, Lukey?
Nah, fuck that place. I can see all the dicks I need to in this city. Thank you very much.
And some of the tits.
Yeah.
I think Luke deserves the last word on that one. Fuck that place.
And there it is.
That's been Tom and Jack having the crack. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Cheers, Steve.
Cheers, Steve. Cheers, Luke.